Hello and welcome to a fun game of Kings of War. We rolled up for a scenario. We got scenario 5, the one we have to collect the loot markers. There's 3 placed along the centre of the table, and whoever has the most at the end of the game wins. It's not about casualties, it's about loot markers. The game is 6 turns, with a possible 7th turn if you roll 4, 5 or 6 on a d6. So there's a few interesting points come up with the rules. There's some sloppy play early on, but it gets quite interesting towards the end. And a couple of questions come up, which you might want to have a think about and hopefully comment. Hope you do leave your comments and enjoy the battle. Yep, there's a little bit of video footage at the beginning to set the scene, and then we went over to photo coverage, and you get a little bit of storytelling and some analysis of what happened, plus those rules questions I mentioned. Right, is Rob, he's going to run us through his army quickly. Go on in, Rob, what have we got here?
Mounted General.
Mounted General, yeah.
2 regiments of knights.
Okay.
2 hordes of shieldwalls.
Alright, that's those guys. These men are Minas Tirith here, looking very heroic.
2 regiments of spear phalanx. 1, 2.
Okay.
2 ballistas.
Okay.
And 4 troops of bowmen. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Hopefully that's all we hear from Rob. Alright, may only come around the other side quickly. I had to make my list legal, so I had to change my original plans quite a lot. So, Big Willie, the 2-eyed Cyclops, is now a greater Earth Elemental. With the trolls are now Earth Elementals. I've got a troop of sharpshooters, they're the ones with the guns. And then we've got a horde of your basic dwarfs. Another horde of them. And then the beserkers are in red up in the corner. Talos is the driller, with a troop of crossbows. And the riders are, we're going to try out the regiment of the Brock berserkers. Sorry, the berserkers riding in Brocks. And I've got a king on a large mount, which is Ivor Goldcock has got himself a horse, which looks a lot like a bear. By the way, I haven't got the driller, Talos. I didn't pay the points to him, I made a mistake. So, yeah, unheard of, I know. And then, it's okay, so Rob's pretty much lined up all the way across the table. I've gone a bit monster heavy on the left. And we're going to try and hack our way through the town. And then this big open space, which I can see is a nice shooting area for his guns. Guns, ballista. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm just going to go across open terrain into your artillery.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Not quite sure I did that. There we go. Alright, well, we'll give it a go and see how this goes. Okay, to crack on with the game, we moved over to camera mode to still photographs. So the first turn, we both pushed up. And Rob's opened up with his ballista, which I always curse for doing nothing. And of course, he's hit with both. Done a load of damage on both the dwarf hordes, which are just soaking it up. You can see some arrows moving up on the left, erasing to get to the objectives. Only I didn't really race. I should double move, shouldn't I? I'm not really thinking about it. Okay, so there's the incoming fire. As you can see, bliss on the right, 5 hits, 3 hits on the left. Archers, wherever they are, did another one. So not the best start. There you go, on to 6 hits already. And over on this side, incoming fire, another hit on my the cavalry. And more archers, another hit on the earth elementals. Okay. On to turn 2. It's cracking through. Now look at the charge here with my berserkers on the Brocks, the Brock riders. And they can charge the archers, or just about charge the main infantry block. If I charge the infantry block, I get the archers in the flank. If I charge the archers, I could probably destroy them in one go, turn to face the infantry. It's a bit of a dilemma, but then the infantry get the jump on me, so I wasn't really sure which way to go. So in the end, I think I plumped for the main infantry block. So they charged into there. We did readjust it because I obviously didn't destroy them. Bounced off, did a load of damage though, 11. Only rolled 4 on the break test. I had a chance of breaking them in one go, which would have been a game changer. So actually, when we've readjusted them, I bounce off. Leaves them in a bit of a bad spot, but what can you do? They're cavalry. You know what happens to cavalry in my armies? Quick on medals and quicker out of the army again. So I've made another mistake now with left-hand side. You can see the infantry is pushing up as far as it can, the berserkers. and the crossbow should have jumped into the wood and just taken their chances. But on the right-hand side, everything's pushed up, and I'm using the troop of crossbows as a screen. They're going to take the brunt of any charge that comes through, and then we get the counter charge. That's the plan anyway. But I haven't really got there quick enough. So Rob's there lining up his charges. You can see his finger there. They're going to charge in. If he destroys them, I've got the token, the loot token, but he's going to... not for long, I think, with that lot coming there. And you can see in the middle, the berserkers are blocked off by the crossbows. On the far left, the earth elementals are shambling up. They can't double move anyway. And the great elemental, who's being played today by Big Willie, the two-eyed Cyclops. I'm not sure if he moved at all, but he's only shambling along. Right, so the cavalry come in and are about to completely destroy those poor crossbows and pick up the loot marker off me. It's a bit of a pain. What can you do? Hopefully I now get the counter charges, and I've got Ivor Goldcock in the middle to give a little boost to one side or the other. So there you go. Not bother going through the details. Let's just say those crossbows are no more. Right, so up on here. So I did the charge, as you know. He's charged back, and the archers are piled into the flank for double dice. And the two of them combined only did 11. They rolled 8 on the break test. So very nearly destroyed my cav. But they have to bounce off. So the left flank, they got a chance. Right, going to the tactical side in a second. So I see the situation we're left in. And his archers done another couple of hits on the elementals. Okay, so on the right-hand side, I'm looking up a couple of nice charges into his cavalry. That's looking good there with Ivor. And he's captured the token in the centre. And my elementals have captured the token on the left. So currently he's holding 2 and I'm holding 1. The objective of the game is to be the person holding the most tokens at the end of 6 turns. As you already know. Right, on to turn 3. We're whistling through here. So there's the charges. All about to go flying in. And there you see them. About to do a fair amount of damage into the 2 cavalry units. Look at that. So on the first one there, we'd done the 6 hits, and one of those came from a bonus hit from Ivor. Didn't do great with his 7 attacks, but he did an extra 1, and when rolling the 10, brings a total of 16, just enough to destroy the cavalry. So I'm giving Ivor the credits for that one. Nice little bonus. Okay, so the dwarves on the left-hand side, and I've realised now, looking back at this, how stupid this was. I rushed the first couple of turns and really didn't play well. I did play better later on, thank goodness. They've done 5 hits, only rolled 6 anyway, but if I'd missed that by 1 or 2, and Ivor could have tipped the balance, that would have been recapturing of the treasure token, or the objective token. So that, a little bit annoying in hindsight, but as it worked out, I got lucky and rolled them the right way around and at least destroyed 1 cavalry unit. So we're bouncing off there, unfortunately. So now the berserkers are coming round this wood to try and join in that big fight. I think I'm still getting a bit wrapped up in the idea of destroying the enemy army as much as possible, rather than grabbing the markers, because Rob's archers were in the wood there. They've now got the token, and they're going to start backing away to try and run off with the loot. So the cavalry managed to survive the joint attack, as we saw. And they're going to charge again now and have another whack into that infantry and see if they can finish them off. So they barreled into the infantry there, did another 11 or 12 hits and destroyed them. And now we're lined up on the archers. Looking very nice, clear run there. And the elementals behind have got the loot. Maybe I should just... what I should have done is just backed off with the elementals, turned the cavalry round. Anyone chasing the elementals would have got charged in the rear. It's a straightforward situation. Tactically, just not playing very well at this point. So, back over on what I think of as the main battle. And as you can see, his cavalry's retreating away with the loot, which is a little bit annoying. And I think... Yeah. Anyway, so we got some leader-on-leader action here where Aragorn is bravely charging out from the ranks of men to take on Ivor in 1-to-1 combat. Does 2 hits, only rolls 3. Ivor just shrugs it off and says, yeah, I'm coming back at you. And do you know what? I probably wouldn't even use that big horde of dwarves I got that could help me, which would have been the sensible option, by the way. Yeah, also to mention that the ballistae hit again. Didn't have 5 hits on my horde on the right, but I think they can take it. And Robert did a clever move. He slid his infantry in to protect the retreat of the cavalry that are holding the loot. Yeah, so the archers charged into the cavalry, did nothing at all. So they just bounced off. And he's turned around and started to squeeze through that gap. Apparently it's not impassable, those hills. Anyway, squeezed through the gap, shot at the elementals, and done one hit, not enough to cause them to break. And we're into turn 4 already. Okay, Ivor, we're looking at this charge now, and if anyone knows the rules better than we do, which is probably almost everybody watching, what we have here is a great elemental who's shambling, so can't make a double move, but as I read the rules, he can make a double distance move for charging, so that's the first thing to clear up. The second one then is wood his base, he doesn't quite clip the wood. We realise afterwards he got Strider anyway, but at the time we were forgetting about the terrain Strider, whatever it's called. He could have gone straight through the wood anyway. But if he couldn't, would that count as clipping the wood? I think we put the ruler down there, or the tape measure, to show there is a straight line that he can hit the unit without going through the wood. So we've done that, and it is a flank attack. So bad news for them. The cavalry, of course, has gone in to try and finish off those archers, and the elementals are going to take out the other archers. So a couple of easy units there, but I am leaving my elements very exposed to his infantry for the counterattack. So they piled in, as you can see. Yeah, so the Earth Elementals went in and basically didn't do an awful lot. They only get 8 attacks, they're not quite as scary as they look. I mean, they've got Crushing 3 or whatever, or plenty of bonuses, but it's only 8 attacks, and if you roll a really bad roll like I did, you end up, not necessarily doing a lot. And didn't break them. But looking at him thinking, oh, well, it's not so bad, actually, because the archer's now blocking the charge of the infantry. What do you think? So he sort of fiddled it a bit. So the archers did a sideways movement of a half, which they're allowed to do. And then the infantry could see a line, and they charged, just sort of wangling around the hill a bit. Which means, I think, the elementals have to come across to straighten up. Now, I'm not sure, this looks a bit strange, but I also think you can charge through friendly units. So if you get the archers out of the way somehow, it's difficult, isn't it? Maybe there's a legitimate charge available. I'm sure there's a way of doing this, so I wasn't bothered and just let it go through. Yeah, so over on the other side, Rob's done another very clever manoeuvre here. What he's done is actually move the cavalry back their half a move, and slide the infantry in sideways their half move, so they're actually blocking. Or I think the infantry charged. Sorry, yeah, the infantry got the charge, and then you form them up to face, which means they're now directly blocking me getting to his cavalry, which have got a chance of escaping with the loot marker. But don't forget, with the loot marker, they can only move 5. Now, they move backwards at half speed. Does that mean they only go 2.5? Anyway, so this is why Ivor's had to go in on his own against Aragorn, only done 2 damage and not broken him, which is a shame, because the idea is that the horde on the right is, with double moves, is going 10 against the cavalry only going 5 or 2.5. And they're going to take the shooting from the right. But if he can get that cavalry off the table, he's got the objective marker in the middle, and I'm messing things up on the left in a second, so potentially holding all 3 objectives. Not looking very good. And that's just an overhead shot of that. You can see they're failing to break through the middle, and Ivor didn't kill Aragorn. Okay, meanwhile, Big Willie did 8, crunched in there with his double attacks. We had to check that. When monsters get flank attacks, they don't count as individuals. Individuals obviously don't get flank attacks. So I think we got that right, because he's a monster rather than an individual. And the crossbows, I think I moved them up just into the woods. So they can shoot out next turn if needed. They could have charged the front, thinking about it, which might have been the smart thing to do, because the terrain doesn't slow them, just give them -1 to hit. A couple more hits might have made the difference. We did 8, roll 5 on top of that, gives 13. So unfortunately, only enough to waver them. So if the crossbows had gone in as well, say done 2, that would have destroyed that unit, and given Willie the chance for a reform. The crossbows in a good shooting position. Too many mistakes. Oh well. So more shooting into the horde on the right. Aragorn's going to charge in to have another go at Ivor. The infantry are charging in to stop the dwarves, and meanwhile the cavalry's backing off at half a move. It does not. I think you don't move faster than 5 with the loot. It shouldn't have been 2.5. I'm just wondering if that would have kept him in charge range. It'd have been pretty close. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of hindsight here, and I've seen a couple of things which I think we can learn from for future games. We both could have played this a little bit better. His infantry in the middle are unwavering, so they can't charge. Not sure they'd want to anyway. Their function now is to block for the guys running away with the loot. And what he's done is turn to face Willie full on, which gives a flank to the crossbows in the wood. So I think the smart thing would have been to angle those infantry. Even if they're in the wood, it wouldn't affect them. It's only charging through the woods that affects you. So they'd have been fine defending there. And I'd still have to charge the front with both units. The mistake I've realised now is that, unless someone can correct me, Willie is not obliged to charge the guys directly in front of him. He can also see the ones holding the loot through those trees. And I keep looking at trees thinking it's difficult terrain, so it'll slow you down in some way. Because it doesn't in Kings of War. It just gives you the extra one on having to attack. Well, if you'd gone thundering into those troop of archers, there's a good, even with a penalty, there's a good chance you could have broken them in one go and got the loot token that way. So I think both of us got a bit to learn from this situation. Yeah, so you're back to the left-hand side, that charge into the elementals. And this is the most stupid thing. My cavalry, you can see at the top of the screen there, had just overrun the archers and could have reformed in any direction. Should turn them round. And my thinking at the time was, well, I can flank charge, take out the archers. I'll still have to have a head-on collision with the infantry, which I'm already quite heavily wounded. I'll probably lose or might not win. With him escaping in the middle, this cavalry can run around quickly and cut off the archers running with the loot in the middle, and I'll go for the other two. I don't know why I thought the elementals could survive this as well. So if they can survive one round, maybe they can crush, but I say they're not as tough as they look, really. So that was a bit of a mess up there. So he's come in, yeah. Elementals got up to 11 hits and rolls an 8. And I think that's the elementals gone. And they dropped the loot, which they were holding. So there we are. So he's moved forward to pick up the loot. So Rob's now holding all 3 loots. And his archers, you can see, are going to turn to face my cavalry, which are facing the wrong way. I don't know. Turn 5. Only 2 turns to go, possibly 3. Oh, sorry for the blurry picture here. The rest are okay. It's a bit of a one-off. Anyway, so on the left-hand side, you can see the red arrow there. That's the berserkers. They actually move 5 rather than 4, which gives them a charge range of 10. They just make it. I'm hoping they can smash those in one turn and get the reform to add some pressure to his cavalry, which is taking out the war machine, so that should be easy enough. Meanwhile, carry on the fight through the middle. On the right-hand side, the dwarves, I'm eyeing up the charge on the archers rather than just making a double move forwards, because I want to make sure I'm clear for a charge. You can't block with those archers. And also there, if they take them out in one turn, they can reform to the left and cut off the escape routes for his cavalry if they can't make it to the edge. And of course down the bottom, Ivor's continuing his one-to-one contest with good old Aragorn. Yeah, so I turned my cavalry round, so his archers couldn't face them because they hadn't been involved in the melee. They didn't get a reform. So, but it's talking about stable door after the horse is bolted, because the archers and the infantry can now turn to face the cavalry. Yeah, messed that up. Okay, so Arthur's gone in. Arthur. Why do I keep calling him Arthur? Ivor. Ivor's gone stomping into Aragorn. He's done 5 wounds. 8 on the roll, plus the 2 already. And Aragorn is no more. So this gets quite interesting, because I have to look at the overall game situation. We're getting towards the end of the game now. 1 or possibly 2 turns left, and that's it. At the moment, I've definitely lost the token on the left. So I'm 1-0 down, and it's best of 3. So the only way I can win this is to grab both of these. And what I'm worried about is the cavalry at the top is just going to keep backing away off the table, and it'll be a 2-1 defeat. I've got a good chance of getting this loot back, because those archers can only go 5 because they're carrying loot. And I got my berserkers right there. And the reason the berserkers are at that angle is deliberate, because I'm tempting Rob to go for the 3-0. I'm thinking, can he resist it? If I put those berserkers like that, yeah, they get a good run on his archers, but I think I'll catch those anyway with something else. The point is, They've left their flank wide open for the heavy cavalry. I think you can't resist that, Rob. You just can't. You've got to go for the 3-0. The heavy cavalry, open flank, lightly armoured troops. Who could resist that? And it gives a chance of a 3-0 win. And also, if it all goes swimmingly, the cavalry could cover the withdrawal of those archers and save that loot. So you can win 3-0 that way. So left him a tempter. And in the spirit, he's not going to turn that down, surely. No. And meanwhile, they've decided that Willie's is strong enough to take out those guys on his own, and which will free up the dwarves, hopefully get some shooting in, which might come in useful if the cavalry does end up there, or I'm trying to get a sneaky shot in the other guys running away, just to give an extra chance to nick one, but I do need 2 tokens. You got to play the player as well sometimes, haven't you, on the situation, the fun. Alright, so that unit's been destroyed. So Willie does an overrun to try and get into the action, try and catch those archers with the other loot marker, do something. Yeah, so the wavering result on that infantry was just a little bit harsh there, because he really wanted to charge forward and take out that dwarf unit, which he probably would have done in one turn, and possibly reform to face back again. But the one consolation is, by going backwards like this, he can use it to cover the cavalry, which of course has still been tempted, hopefully, by that charge into the beserkers, which I've made just so you can see them, just about to see them. So, of course, the cavalry can't resist that bait, and they go in for it. And I set up those beserkers deliberately to leave that flank there, because I really wanted this cavalry to have a go, take them out, because turn 6 is coming up. I can't see how I can grab both markers. I'm sure if that cavalry just turned and pegged it to the far end, I couldn't really catch them. I know they only move 5 because of the loot marker, but I still think they're going for the 2-1. So what I've done is just tempt here with a chance of a 3-0 by leaving that berserker unit just wide open with its low armour. What heavy cavalry unit in the world could resist that? And the archers come in just to make sure. I think the archers could have blocked for the cavalry here, and the cavalry could have made good its escape. But also, the archers are moving 5, the same speed as the cavalry. Maybe the cavalry could have blocked for them, I don't see how. But anyway, at the moment, with the cavalry coming in there, I think I've got an outside chance of maybe sneaking both markers by trapping that cavalry and taking out the other ones. Yeah, so at least I give myself a slight chance. Obviously, the berserkers got raped, sorry about that, guys. And the cavalry pulled back, and he only rolled 1 on his move back. I wonder if he could use that reform to point away over the top left. And the archers could have come forward to cover, and then the cavalry could have escaped and gone for a 2-1 that way. But he's trying to keep his units alive the best possible. Turn 6 could be the last turn. Situation at the moment, I think Rob's got all 3 objectives. There you see the man himself. And Willie is, you can see the white arrow on Willie. He's trying to make the charge there on the archers. Doesn't quite make it, but he's in quite a good spot. He only shambles. He couldn't double move forward, unfortunately. And you see on the right-hand arrow, that horde, which did overrun the archers and the reform, is in a great position to get behind the cavalry. So suddenly that cavalry's looking a bit stuck. They can't just back out now. They only move 5. Yeah, it's a wide expression there, because they could have gone off and possibly won the game. Top left-hand side, you see my cavalry taking out those archers, hoping for a miracle that they survive and somehow win back that objective. So we still carry on crunching through the middle, hoping, yeah, if we wipe them out, we've got another unit stuck on the flank of his cavalry and less places to run. Oh yeah, the yellow arrow, just recapping, he did move his cavalry back a bit when he won the melee, so he's facing the right direction anyway. Well, what is the right direction? At least this way you got a half move back. Now as his turn 6, could be the end of the game. What we haven't mentioned here is the shooting from the crossbows. They only did 1, but if I could get lucky and roll a high roll and break those cavalry, the loot's on the ground and I can try and pick it up. They've done nothing all game, the shooters. And they've got like the piercing arrow. Reroll 1 of the misses. Woohoo. Okay, so the dwarves are still bashing their way through the middle there. The other horde has gone round the rear to really trap his cavalry. What's going to matter now? Do we end on turn 6 or turn 7 is going to be very important. Yeah, so my cavalry, well, they can't. They've overrun the archers and they're like, alright, we need a miracle. Already on 13. The archers have decided they're going to fight Willie. I don't think he realises how tough he is. I mean, effectively he's a greater earth elemental. It's 6 is a hit. Could they have run away? Could they have escaped? I reckon if they just gone straight back. Okay, so unfortunately, poor Willie has taken a few hits because the cavalry decided to charge him and the archers charged him. Sorry, that's what happened there. So both of them combined did 4 hits. Not quite enough to destroy Willie. And now you can see I've got 2, not 1, but 2 hordes of dwarves out to the flank of the cavalry. And Willie with an option to charge the archers. And there's the 2 loot markers. I've lost one on the left. So you can still save the game, perhaps. Yeah, that white arrow is a little bit misleading here, because actually the infantry have just charged my cavalry. Yeah, not going to get that token back. And sure enough, they eat their very badly handled cavalry. Kicking myself on that flank. Although I think I was always second favourite. Could have done a lot better. Right, so at the moment, Rob is holding all 3 objective markers. It's a resounding win for the Kingdom of Men. But if we roll a 4, 5 or 6, there's one more turn. And I roll 5. Yes, one more turn. Now the tables are badly turned. I'm going first. Oh no, there's another blurry picture, but you get the message. 2 units of 2 hordes of dwarves upon to the flank of his cavalry. I could have probably got Ivor in if I'd really tried as well. Which leaves Willie free to do a charge into those archers there. And possibly to pick up 2 tokens. So there's Willie making contact on the archers. And both hordes of dwarves obviously wiped out that cavalry. Now, where does the loot drop? It doesn't really say in this scenario as we read it. It just said the loot's dropped. So we thought it'd make it a bit more interesting here to have the loot dropped at the back of the base. Well, remember, hit the flanks, so it's pretty near the middle of the base. And we said I've got to roll at least 3 for one of the dwarf units to get there. So we rolled them off 1 at a time, 2 followed by 2. So the loot's just sitting there with all these greedy dwarves 1 inch from it, just staring at it going, no, give me the loot. So it's down to Willie now to save the day. He's got to clunk those good and hard and really take them out. So, bosh, how about that? If you've got 8 attacks, roll 7 hits. That gives you a great chance. And with his crushing attack and everything, boom, there's a 1 in there, that's the only one that misses. That's another 7. 7 wounds straight through on the ass. Roll 5, that's plenty, they're gone. So, the question now is, can Willie move forward enough to pick up the loot? We like this rule, so we kept it. Yay! He rolled a 3 and picks up the loot marker. So we're now sitting on 1 loot marker each. Not many humans left on the table. I'm thinking it's time to shake hands, and it's a draw. But there's one more twist in the tail. Willie, as a greater elemental, is a tall target, which means Rob dug out this rule from his memory somehow. His ballista, that's still there on the far right, has got a shot at Willie. If he can hit him on a 5 or 6, do a couple of wounds, because don't forget we've already got a few on him, he could kill Willie. The loot drops to the floor. I've got 2 loot sitting in front of my 2 hordes of dwarves, and we'll still lose 1-0. Just a 5 or 6 to hit. And thank goodness they rolled a 3 and missed. So 1 all and 1 on the floor. A draw, good result for a friendly game like this. And we thoroughly enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed that. A bit of fun. I have to say the dwarves do look very powerful. I know movement's an option, but they roll a lot of attack dice. And they're tough to kill. So hopefully this was actually a proper lists we used, where, you know, troops were generated by hordes and regiments, and monsters and stuff are all done in the proper way. So I've got my usual big monster mash, which is good fun, but not actually legal at all. So we're starting to move towards more formal games now, and I think we'll start looking at a bit more thought into our lists rather than just turning up and playing with the figures we got. Although I have to say, that's the way to play this. You know, we didn't put 40 figures for a horde. We just had a sabot the right sort of size, plunked a good number of figures on, and that's a horde. One of the things I really like about this game, setup is so easy, use your existing figures. Rob uses Lord of the Rings figures. I use some from Forlorn Hope, Games Workshop, all over the place. And it was great, looked alright, and I'm going to do a bit more work on the sabots, make them a little bit more presentable. But overall, really enjoyed it. Hope you did too. And until the next time, keep rolling.